Duane and I'd like to play a few songs that I've written through the years. I've been writing for 50 years, never played out much. Played around my apartment, lived in Mount Adams for 8 or 9 years right after I was divorced in 1976. Lived with some musicians, played on the weekends. I was born in 1941 in rural Appalachia, southwestern Ohio. When I served rural in Appalachia in 41, it was pretty rural in parts of southern Ohio, to the point that I was born at home on the kitchen table in a house with no electric, and a house that didn't have plumbing or running water. My parents lived with my maternal grandparents, and they owned a small farm, 5-6 acres, raised a couple of pigs, very self-sufficient people. And I remember my grandparents vividly. I don't know that I ever loved anyone more than I loved them, or I've never been loved more by anyone than they. So I'm very close to them, and I have strong memories of them. And Granddaddy was an itinerant farmer and never made any money, a few $100s a year, but they never had money problems, and that always impressed me. My family lived with them for another 6 years. Then we moved in various houses around the county. And I was a sophomore in high school the first time I lived in a house that had indoor plumbing. We moved to Circleville when I was a sophomore because my father wanted me to get a better education, and that accomplished that. And when I turned 18 and graduated, I went off to the Army. And when I was in the Army, I met a couple of bright guys, college men, who talked me into applying to college while I was in Germany. And when I came back, I went to Miami University. Now, when I was in college, I met another wonderful roommate who talked me into joining a fraternity. He was a legacy. And I went to the rush parties for the beer, and eventually they offered me a job as a house steward, and I could afford it then. So I became the house steward. Then I went on and married my college sweetheart there in Oxford. Came to Cincinnati for the first time in my life in '66. Settled down here, raised a family, and by '72 we had an old Victorian in Wyoming and a couple of kids, and we were on our way to the American dream. And in the summer of '72, my daughter was diagnosed with a tumor on her optic nerve, and everything went upside down in a matter of weeks. And there's nothing that yanks you back to reality and to what life's really about, like taking a 3-year-old to chemo and on a daily basis. And there's nothing that puts pressure on a family like having more bills than you can pay and a medical problem for a child that you can't solve. So one day I sat down and I was overwhelmed and feeling bad and sad, and I wrote this song. I got thinking about how simple my life had been and how quickly everything had gone to pot, and how I missed being a boy and not having all this pressure and all this horrible news. So on that I wrote this song. Oh, I wanna go back when life was easier, back when you were just in dreams of all the things time would bring. Great big smile because of nothing, love the world because I wanted, didn't take much cause it seemed done. I was young, were serene one, but the road has turned to gray. I don't want to go back when life was easier, back when you were just my pillow, and I was a prince in a world of royalty. Never knew a bigot until I was one. Never needed money till it had some. Never hurt a man until it mattered. Never left my dreams till they were shattered. Reality, a place to dream. I don't want to go back when life was easier, back when you were just in dreams. And all of this ain't, it ain't what it seems. I wrote this song in the middle of the night after getting home from Cincinnati's first disco. It was called Buster Brown's, and it operated in an old warehouse down on 2nd Street. It later became a restaurant called the Old Spaghetti Factory, and was eventually torn down when they built the present Bengal Stadium. The disco drew long-standing lines and soon became the in place for a lot of slick dancers in polyester suits and print hucklepuck shirts. And a year later, Larry Grouse opened the conservatory over on Riverfront Road, Kentucky. And Jeff Ruby came into the Holiday Inn on Guest Street at 8 and opened Lucy in the Sky on the 8th floor. And the disco cruise was on. Well, I wasn't very successful at converting my Watusi and fish and swim and pony to disco dancing, but I found myself down at Buster Brown's about 3 nights a week and sang with a couple buddies. And I observed that it seemed to be pretty much a pickup place. A lot of slick-looking dudes in there trying to pick up girls, and a lot of girls in there trying to find Mr. Right. And it was the beginning of the sexual revolution that took place there in the late 70s. And it went on like that. I mean, the birth control pill had just come into prominence, and free love had exploded. And the disco was, Buster Brown's, for example, was a great meeting place. And then about 1983, you started hearing the first reports of AIDS, and that put a kibosh on the free love experiment that the birth control pill had engendered. This song is about a guy in the disco trying to pick up a girl. She's wanting a long-term relationship, and he's wanting a one-night stand. Some things never change, do they? This isn't me. You just need to know that. I wrote this. This is an observation. Please don't think this is me. When she walked into the bar, ordered her queen of the night. She said I could call her tomorrow. There's nothing tomorrow I can't see tonight. Like she wants the wine and the roses, only content with it all. I'm not the man that I'm posing to be. Won't be the man that she thinks catchy song. I've had too many slow talking dances, too many bells of the ball, too many dead end romances, too many numbers that I'll never call. She's a-looking to find forever, wanting to be someone's wife. I'm just trying to get it together, dance into her heart, walk out of her life. I said thanks for the time that I borrowed, and I hope that you find Mr. Right. We can both try again come tomorrow, 'cause tomorrow is just another tonight. Too many slow talking dances, too many bells of the ball, too many dead end romances, too many numbers that I'll never call. Back in the late 70s, 77, 78, and 79, were miserable cold winters. 77 was the worst, but they were all horrible. I was living in Mount Adams on downside, the backside down on Oregon Street, next door to the City View Tavern. And the City View at that point in time was owned by the Lagerman family, Ted and his three sisters, and they were all in their 70s, and I guess maybe 78 or 79. Wilma got sick and couldn't work anymore, and Ted came to me and asked me if I would help him out and bartend nighttime for him. So it was a good opportunity for me. I was unemployed at the time. I took the job. And one cold January night, it was snowing. All the regulars had stopped in and had a beer, a couple of Beauty Delight drafts, shot the breeze with each other, and grabbed a can of tomato soup out of the grocery store in the front and went up the street for the night. I was in there by myself about 6:30 or 7, and it looked like another slow night at the City View. And a giant of a man walked in the door. He had a Florida suntan. He was in a expensive tailored suit. He had a $100 haircut, and his nails were polished. And probably the most noticeable thing about him was that when his hands or his fist came through the sleeves of his suit, they looked like he had on boxing gloves. His hands were that large. And he drank Corona, a little liqueur. He drank Corona on the rocks in these little 2-ounce shot glasses. And when he picked them up, the glass would disappear in his huge fist. I remember that. He told me he was an executive in the auto industry, and he said he had been working at the cutting edge of the industry. And I think that's the first time I ever heard that expression, cutting edge. He told me that he had become a workaholic, and that he had become an alcoholic, and that he had lost his wife, and he had lost his job, and he had lost his family. And he had headed south, and when he hit Cincinnati, he stopped and he heard that Mount Adams was the place he should visit. So he came up there and he said, I liked it so much that I've taken an apartment up the street here on Oregon Street, and I'm your new neighbor. As it turned out, that's the only customer I had that night. And over the next 2 or 3 hours, Ed pretty much told me the story of his life. And when I went home that night at 1 o'clock, I wrote a song about what Ed had told me. And that weekend, my roommate and I had a little picking party every Saturday night. After the bar closed, most everybody in it would come over to our apartment next door to the bar. And we'd have a little picking party and sit around and smoke marijuana and play songs and shoot the breeze. And Ed showed up that Saturday, and I hadn't told him about the song, and I just played it. And Ed loved it. Ed knew it was about him, and over the next 2 or 3 years, I reckon I played this song every Saturday night for Ed. It's called Mr. Successful.
Oh, Mr. Successful, look at you now. Your life's in a bottle, the world's upside down. You used to be happy with her by your side, then you gave it away for some money and pride. And she's gone, and you drove her away. You were wrong, something you couldn't say. But now that she's gone, you drink alone every day. And you pray she'll come home so you finally can say, I was wrong, I was wrong. Oh, those 7-day weeks, working 10 hours a day. I was out making money, had no time to play. $1 million house and a $10 home. I guess all that security caused her to roam. But she's gone, and I drove her away. I was wrong, something I couldn't see. But now that she's gone, drink alone every day. And I pray she'll come home so I finally can say, Lord, I was wrong. Lord, I was wrong. That ain't funny, somehow I worked all my life for some things I don't need. I just thought that I might. Never seeing beauty in life day to day, needing her love till it's all gone away. And I was wrong.
Well, as a confirmed bachelor of over 20 years, I'd come to feel pretty much impervious to the wiles of the fair sex. But then 2 years ago, when I had a part-time job grading high school achievement tests in the evening, I fell ingloriously hard for my instructor, who was also a senior citizen. Now, we got a 15-minute break every night at 7:30, and this was to be my window of opportunity to meet this woman who had stolen my heart. But as I hurried to the lunchroom, I saw that she was headed for the front door and out to the smoking gazebo. Well, as I sat in the lunchroom, looking out at her in the gazebo with two old geezers who somehow were lucky enough to still be smokers, I was filled with jealousy and self-recrimination at having been dumb enough to quit smoking. Well, people, a good songwriter's always got to hear a hook when he says it. I went home that night and I wrote this song in probably under an hour, top to finish.
You make me want to smoke again, have his old heart broke again, just breathing out and breathing in. I really want to smoke again. You make me want to dance with you, like I was young and love was new. I'll bring my heart and my blue suede shoes, 'cause I really want to dance with you. Never thought I'd love again. Then you walk by and we begin. Sweet magic from way back when. I really want to smoke again. I never thought that I'd love again. Then you walked by and we begin. If this ain't love, would you please pretend? 'Cause I really want to smoke again.
Okay. You know, I was a radio kid growing up. Television didn't exist for me until, well, it came around for families that had a little bit of money, I guess, in the early 50s. But for poor people, most of us get television about 54, 55. So being a radio kid, I'm familiar with a lot of stuff from then, and as I recall, RCA was huge in that industry, and they had a trademarked dog, a little white dog. I think most of you may recall. His name was, I think, Skipper or Skippy, something like that. But anyway, and in an effort to give credit, we're trademarked too. His name is Oliver. Yeah, say hi to everybody, Ollie. You know, this is the RCA cat. That's all.